The Los Angeles Rams recently made waves in the news after deciding to release one of the franchise's most iconic players, Todd Gurley. Sure, he wasn't with the team for 20 years like Tom Brady with the New England Patriots, or 16 seasons like Phillip Rivers with the Chargers, but Gurley was a big part of the increasingly competent organization that the Rams have been building the past 5 years. And let's be real, 5 years in running back years, which at this point may as well be called dog years, is a pretty long time. I mean, come on. The guy has been with them since way back when, back when they were the St. Louis Rams. He was pretty much the lone bright spot on the team during its last year in St. Louis. Gurley finished his rookie year with 1,106 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns on 229 attempts, despite making only 12 starts. Despite coming off of a torn ACL in his final year of college ball at the University of Georgia, he put up a number of insane performances, like his 146-yard outburst against the Arizona Cardinals. After carrying the ball just 6 times for 9 yards in his debut and only netting 2 yards in the first half of the Cardinals game, Gurley erupted in the second half, notching 144 rushing yards and helping the Rams to narrow a 24-22 victory. It was performances like this which made the Rams fans fall head over heels for Gurley almost immediately. After all, he gave every inclination that he was going to be a star in the NFL, especially with the hot start he got off to. And it wasn't just conjecture either. 4 games into the season, he was already setting records when he torched the San Francisco 49ers defense for 133 yards and 1 touchdown on 20 carries, pushing his season total to 566 yards. You heard that right. In his first 4 games, Gurley amassed 566 rushing yards, breaking the record for best start to an NFL career since the merger. His performance was so exceptional that it even prompted the then head coach, Jeff Fisher, to comment on it, in a way that was as complimentary as Fisher ever gets when speaking with the media. "I keep bringing up that S word, which is special," Fisher said. "I've been saying that he's special. Again, credit him to get to this point, and credit the guys around him. He's obviously getting a lot of people's attention." And that was just his rookie year. As a 23-year-old in 2017, he was NFL Offensive Player of the Year, and in 2018, he was a huge part of the resurgent, now Los Angeles Rams, making a run at Super Bowl glory. Who knows? If Gurley had been completely healthy down the stretch of that season, maybe the Rams end up on top of that low-scoring affair with the Patriots. Anyways, his release really got people talking, as it caught a lot of the general public off guard. Actually, it wasn't even just the common folk that were shocked and appalled by the business decision that the Rams front office made. Arguably the team's best player, Aaron Donald, took to Twitter to express his displeasure directly to the NFL account when he found out. Likewise, Jalen Ramsey, the Rams' all-pro cornerback, who was acquired in a mid-season trade last year, was shocked and presumably disappointed. The ripples went through the locker room even deeper than the brief public lamenting from the 2 of the Rams' defensive stars. Team captain Andrew Whitworth, who has been with the team since 2017 and is widely respected around the league, spoke out on the shocking decision, perhaps feeling some sort of survivor's guilt, as the decision to let Gurley go did free up some more money for the Rams to re-sign Whitworth to the richest deal ever, given an NFL player over the age of 35 that wasn't a quarterback. But still, he did speak glowingly about Gurley, saying, "The energy this guy brings in the locker room and the way he loves to compete is infectious. Game days, I used to say, you look over at his locker to see his excitement and how much passion he has for the game. And he's one of those guys who makes you feel good. I expect nothing less from that, and on a day-to-day basis. He's a great human being. He takes life real lightly. You know what? He doesn't take himself too seriously for an elite player, and I love that about him. He's a human being first, and that's what's cool about Todd, and it's something that'll be infectious to those guys on that team as they have success." It's rare to see a superstar as humble and team first as Whitworth depicts Gurley, and it really just furthers the point at hand. If a player like Todd Gurley can get the axe, really, anyone can, especially at the running back position. Speaking of other running backs, Gurley actually entered the league in a draft class that was absolutely loaded with talent in the running back position group, 4 of whom earned Pro Bowl honors in their young careers. Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, Jay Ajayi, and of course Gurley. And these were no fringe Pro Bowlers either. Melvin Gordon quickly proved himself as a member of the upper echelon of modern running backs with his dual threat abilities, a constant threat both running the ball and catching it out of the backfield. And despite only having had one season in which he played all 16 games, he's earned 2 trips to the Pro Bowl and has proven to be a touchdown machine. In 2016 and 18, his 2 Pro Bowl seasons, he recorded double-digit rushing touchdowns and tacked on 2 and 4 receiving touchdowns respectively. He also notched 8 rushing touchdowns in 2 other seasons. In fact, he has only had less than 9 total touchdowns once his rookie season. David Johnson, while not the model of consistency that Gordon or Gurley have been, might have had one of the highest peaks of the bunch, with his epic season of 20 touchdown and 2,000-plus yards from scrimmage back in 2016. Although Johnson's young career has also been somewhat hindered by injuries, as he too only played 2 full seasons, he has showed the ability to consistently find the end zone, having scored 48 total touchdowns in just 62 games. If you thought the first 3 Pro Bowlers from the 2015 draft were injury-prone, well, Ajayi takes it to another level. In 5 seasons, he only played 45 games, and while his stats are the least impressive of the group, as he never recorded double-digit touchdowns and only rushed for 1,000 yards once, he does have the unique distinction of being the only Pro Bowl running back from the 2015 draft class to have actually won a Super Bowl. 4 different running backs, all with completely different running styles, sure, but there is one commonality that the 4 share, along with the rest of the backs from that 2015 class, which, by the way, had some other pretty talented guys that didn't make a Pro Bowl. Guys like Tevin Coleman, Duke Johnson, Amir Abdullah, and T.J. Yeldon, who ended up in systems that leaned heavily on the running back by committee ideology, in which they never really saw enough usage to accumulate the stats needed to earn such a distinction. So, what do all 22 of the running backs taken just 5 years ago in the 2015 draft have in common? Now that Gurley has been released and subsequently signed by the Atlanta Falcons, not a single one of them are still with the team that drafted them. Ajayi went from the Dolphins to the Eagles in a midseason trade. Johnson was part of the albeit somewhat questionable trade between the Arizona Cardinals and the Houston Texans that sent Johnson and a couple of middling draft picks to Houston in exchange for all-world wide receiving talent Deandre Hopkins. And Melvin Gordon, who was part of a very public contract dispute last year that caused him to sit out the first 4 games of the 2019 season and incessantly reiterated that he wanted to remain a Charger, issuing comments like, "I want to end up with the Chargers. I mean, that's my home. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't want to go back to the Chargers. That's the team who blessed me with an opportunity. They changed my life. Out of all 32 teams, that was the team that called. I can't forget them for that." He too has now found a new home in Denver, agreeing to a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Broncos. The game of backfield musical chairs doesn't stop there either. Coleman, who made his name in Atlanta, is now a San Francisco 49er. Duke Johnson took his deadly screen pass game to the Houston Texans from Cleveland. Abdullah was traded from Detroit to Minnesota, and T.J. Yeldon, after breaking out as a quality running back down in Jacksonville, has since fizzled out a bit and is looking to revitalize his career up in Buffalo. It is unfathomable that there could be so much talent in one position group, in one draft class, and not a single one of them was deemed worth of keeping by the teams that invested draft picks in them. Now, in fairness to the running backs in question, it is not entirely fair to look at this binarily and suggest that these legitimate Pro Bowl talents are simply worth or not worth retaining. If you ask me, they are just victims of the system, well, as much of victims as any millionaire pro athletes are. While the effects of this system are blatantly obvious when it comes to the 2015 draft class, as circumstances rather than talent alone did play a role in some of these players' untimely departures from their first teams. If you look back, this has been a reoccurring theme ever since 2011. At the time, the NFL Players Association and the owners were very much at odds, so much so that there was even a work stoppage, the first since 1987. And when the heavily disputed and highly controversial collective bargaining agreement was finally signed off on by both sides, there were a number of changes implemented. But perhaps the most impactful was the rookie wage scale, a cornerstone of the agreement, which, looking back, may have been a little bit reactionary, as it came on the heels of the Sam Bradford fiasco in St. Louis. Bradford was the first pick of the 2010 NFL Draft and held out during negotiations, eventually signing a 6-year, $78 million deal with the Rams before ever taking a snap. This was a huge problem for the owners because once a team drafts a player, they have already invested a tremendously important asset in them, in the form of the draft pick itself, which gives the player a ton of leverage. And while this problem was very real and to a degree did not need to get solved, the new rookie wage scale ended up marginalizing certain position groups. I don't know that we will ever see a young running back end up with a deal like Darren McFadden got when he signed a 6-year, $60 million contract with the Oakland Raiders after being taken 4th overall back in 2008. Veronica Patton, an attorney who was working with a few high-profile running backs and filing a petition with the National Labor Relations Board, summed up the effects of this system perfect with the following statement. This labor agreement was made for quarterbacks without any regard for the running backs. Quarterbacks have to progress, so you pay them these low salaries for essentially their apprenticeship, and then you start to pay them off the charts. Running backs spend almost their entire careers, and certainly their prime, making minimum wage. They need their own bargaining unit. While it is still unclear if there will be any real changes, you have to hope, at least for the running back's sakes, that something will get worked out. Otherwise, we will continue to see even the most talented young stars at the position follow the trend that we saw with the 2015 class and change teams constantly in search of maximizing their financial opportunity for the brief window they have it. Which running back from the 2015 draft class do you think will have the most success with his new team? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by hitting the subscribe button down below. If you liked the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.